Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. Today I'm going to discuss the latest with the coronavirus, some college basketball awards that I want to get to, a lot of NFL news I have to talk about, recapping last night's episode of American Idol and discuss who made the top 40, and my top 10 NFL players of the calendar year 2019. Okay, we'll start with the coronavirus. The biggest news to come out since I last recorded is that Charles Barkley tested negative. That's good. He obviously tested over a week ago. TNT had their usual Inside the NBA show on, I believe it was not this past Thursday, but the Thursday before, and Barkley wasn't on the show, and he FaceTimed in and said he was tested, and because he wasn't feeling well, and luckily he turned out negative, so that's good news for Charles Barkley, and hopefully the NBA will be back soon. And speaking of the NBA, they normally send their players to the Olympics every 4 years, and I discussed a little bit of this on the show yesterday, but they made it official since we last recorded that the Olympics are officially moved to 2021. I think this is the right move, and hopefully it'll all be better by then. I'm sure it will be. I'm a half glass full kind of person, so I certainly believe that. And then obviously Canada would then participate in this, and like I said on yesterday's show, the thing with them having the Summer Olympics in 2021, that would mean that it's literally 6 months apart of Summer Olympics and Winter Olympics, so that's very interesting. And the other thing that stands out to me, as I mentioned on the show yesterday, was that will the NBA send its players to the 2021 Olympics if they indeed do this new permanent league calendar year change? So that's very interesting. Gary Bettman stopped sending NHL players to the Winter Olympics a few years ago. I don't know if Adam Silver will follow suit. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But back in the day, when the NHL players used to go to the Winter Olympics, the NHL would go on a 1-month Olympic break, and they would replace the All-Star game pretty much, as they would send a lot of their players to the Olympics in the wintertime. But I wonder if the NBA will do the same, though the WNBA takes the in-season break for the Olympics, though they have the last couple of years. So I guess the NBA would as well, because the WNBA associates more with the NBA than the NBA with the NHL. So I would assume that if they do this permanent league calendar change, that Adam Silver will indeed send the players to the Summer Olympics through the year. So that is something that I wanted to touch on, obviously, as well. Some college basketball news I'd like to discuss. It was announced today that Obi Toppin was named the AP National Player of the Year. This is well deserved. He was the best player on a team that was ranked in the top 25 all season long. I believe they only lost 2 games all year. They're like 25-2 this year, or this past year, with losses to Colorado and to Kansas in overtime in Maui. So they had a fantastic season. You could argue they had the best season of any team in college basketball. Between them and San Diego State, I'd say, had the best seasons. And so good for Obi Toppin. He certainly should be a lottery pick in the upcoming draft, top 10 pick. I think if there was a tournament, then his stock would have went up and made a case for top 5. But no, there was no tournament, and that sucks for a player like Toppin, who I feel has a chance to be a very good NBA player. Anthony Grant, the coach of Dayton, was named the AP National Coach of the Year. I think this is very deserved as well. Anthony Grant obviously used to be the coach at Alabama, and then he got fired, and then he took the Dayton job when Archie Miller went to Indiana, and he's done a great job with Dayton. he has Toppin, or had Toppin this year. And assuming we're going to have college basketball next fall, I'm interested to see how the Staten team would come out in next year without Toppin, and it'll really show with the returning players coming back whether Dayton was a one-man show this past season or not. But Anthony Grant, good for him. He's somebody that I think could have a major job, like a better job than Dayton maybe in a year from now, 2 years from now, if the Flyers continue to have success under him. So good for him. Like I mentioned, 25-2 with the overtime loss to Kansas. That really gained a lot of people's respect, even though it was in defeat. I remember they were ranked as soon as after that game, like that next week, and never fell out of the rankings after that. I think that game really showed a lot of people, even though it was in defeat, that they were a team that was for real. So congratulations to Obi Toppin and Anthony Grant on their major awards, and Dayton University as well. NFL free agency is back in the news. A couple things I want to get to. The biggest thing, obviously, was the release, or soon-to-be release, of soon-to-be former Panthers quarterback Cam Newton. This seemed inevitable over the last couple of days after they couldn't find a trade for him. They tried to send him to the Bears. They tried to send him to the Chargers. And nobody else really showed much interest. And now he's going to be released. Do the Chargers pick him up and sign him to a one-year deal like Indy did with Phillip Rivers? Will a rebuilding team like the Dolphins or the Jaguars potentially pick him up? There's a lot of rumors about the Redskins because of Ron Rivera. It looks like that they won't go in that direction either. Instead, they ended up trading for Kyle Allen, who started a majority of the Panthers' games last year. Showed some promise at times and then fell off a little bit at the end of the year. And Carolina got back a 5th-round pick. And just so you know, that's all the Ravens had to give up for Calais Campbell. So that trade makes the Jaguars look really bad, in my opinion. So Kyle Allen, I think, will be a backup to Dwayne Haskins. I know there's some talk that there could be competition there, but I personally think they're going to stick with Haskins. I know Daniel Snyder was a big fan of him, and a big reason why that they drafted him, even though it's a new regime in Washington with Bruce Allen gone and Ron Rivera there and Jay Gruden gone. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Redskins do. More news in the NFC East. Travis Frederick, the great center of the Dallas Cowboys, retired unexpectedly at the age of 29. This is a big loss for the Cowboys. Now that fills another hole on their roster. Maybe they'll pick somebody up in free agency. Maybe they'll draft somebody. But that is an enormous loss for the Dallas Cowboys offensive line. The offensive line's still good without him, and Travis Frederick was somebody that had been injured a lot over the last couple of years, and that line actually showed to be somewhat decent without him. But I still feel that Frederick was a very important player for the Dallas Cowboys, and his presence on that offensive line will still be missed. Although, like I said, they still have Tyron Smith, who's really shown signs of decline over the past couple of years. Zach Martin's still there. He's solid, Zach Martin. He's probably their best O-lineman. And I'll just never forget when they drafted him. Everyone in the media and everywhere, and at a get-together I was at, thought that the Cowboys were going to draft Johnny Manziel that year, and ended up being Zach Martin. And that's something that Jerry Jones, in my opinion, deserves a lot of credit for, not going with Johnny Manziel. And the story behind that is that Stephen Jones talked him out of it. So Stephen Jones probably deserves more credit than Jerry Jones on that drafting of Zach Martin. But yeah, Travis Frederick retires. And like I said, big loss for the Cowboys. And now that creates another hole on that roster. along with they need some help at cornerback as well. They signed Clinton Dix recently, which I predicted on the podcast, so that was pretty cool that I actually got a free agency prediction correct for a player that I think is pretty good. I think Clinton Dix is a solid player, and he really fills an important need for the Dallas Cowboys. So they have 2 needs left on the board. It's between them and the Eagles in the NFC East right now. The Eagles really got better. I think the Cowboys, with this retiring of Frederick, kind of got worse on paper, but they have an upgraded head coach. We've talked about that on the show a lot, and they'll probably get better health this season from guys that were injured last year. So they still have some work to do, the Cowboys, for them to be considered among the contenders in the NFC in my mind, or at least some of the top contenders. I put them number 3 right now behind the Bucs and the 49ers, and you could argue 4 behind the Eagles, the Bucs, and the 49ers. They're certainly better than everybody in the NFC North right now, although you could argue the Bears got better. I don't think the Packers got better. They got worse. They lost Blake Martinez, and they lost a couple other pieces. The Bears, I don't think got all that much better. So, I think the NFC North's wide open. I talked about that on the show yesterday. And then within the Cowboys division, the NFC East, the New York Giants signed running back Dion Lewis to a 1-year contract to be the second running back behind Saquon Barkley. I think this is a really good signing by the Giants. Obviously, Lewis and Joe Judge have history from New England, so this kind of makes sense. Their backup running backs have not been very good over the last few years since they drafted Barkley, but now Barkley has a quality backup behind him, and the Giants don't have to run Saquon Barkley into the ground like the Rams did with Todd Gurley over the past couple of years. So, great signing by the Giants, and I think they noticed the wear and tear of Todd Gurley and thought to themselves, oh, we need to get another running back. But yeah, I think the New York Giants have quietly had a nice offseason here in the NFC East out of like those rebuilding teams. I don't like what the Redskins have done other than signing Kendall Fuller. So, yeah, the Giants, I think, have pretty much solidified themselves as the number 3 team in the NFC East with their solid offseason. And in the same town, the New York Jets re-signed Jordan Jenkins to a 1-year deal. Good move for the Jets. He was a solid player for them. The Giants had interest in him. I think that the Jets are under some pressure this offseason to make themselves better because Sam Darnold's going into year 3, and they went 7-9 last year. But I think if Darnold never had mono, they probably would have been close to a playoff team. So the Jets, I think, are under some pressure here to improve themselves. They got better on the offensive line. They re-signed Jenkins. I think they need some help in the secondary and then the pass rush. They still have to draft to do that. So I think the Jets still have work to do in that division. I think they're the number 3 team in that division, although the Dolphins are right there with them as well with their improvements in the offseason. But to me, with the Dolphins, if they draft Tua Tagovailoa, and Tagovailoa looks to be the quarterback that helped lead Alabama to that comeback against Georgia in the 2018 national title game, then the Dolphins are in good hands. I'm just using that as an example of who they could possibly draft. But I still have the Dolphins number 4 because of the uncertainty at quarterback. And at least Sam Darnold has shown in flashes that he can be a franchise quarterback for the New York Jets. All right, now we'll recap American Idol from last night. They announced the top 40. That list is a good list. And then we'll talk about who got snubbed as well. The top 40. Elena Jester. She had a pretty solid performance in the solo round last night. You have Amber Fielder. She also performed pretty well. Arthur Gunn, who did his own rendition of Have You Ever Seen the Rain? That was excellent. So good job on Arthur Gunn. Bilal Avaz, Cameron Lee Smith, who performed River by Leon Bridges. I think she did a good performance last night. Sanaya Elise, she performed I Wanna Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston. That was pretty good. Demi Ray, she had a nice performance last night. Devin Alexander, I think he had a nice performance last night. Dwayne Cocker Jr., he's a very talented kid that I think could potentially go far in the competition. Dylan James got through. He sang an original song. Francisco Martin, I'm not a big fan of Francisco Martin, but he got through. I just don't think he'll make the next big cut. So that one I think was the most questionable one. Franklin Boone sang River by Leon Bridges as well. I thought he did a really nice job. Jeb Vonderby sang Rocket Man by Elton John. I thought he was very good. Johnny West, who is the boyfriend of Margie Mays, got through. He sang an original song. He made it through. Jovan Webb, who I think is very talented, he made it through. He sang Parachute by Chris Stapleton. Just Sam, I think, is a special talent. I think she has a chance to go very far, top 10 in the competition far. She is so good. She sang I'm Here by Cynthia Erivo, and she obviously got through. Kimmy Gabriella made it. Lauren Mescaletti, she got through with her own original song. Lauren Spencer Smith got through. She sang The Joke by Brandi Carlile. Louis Knight got through. I love Louis Knight's story. He sang Call Me While You Wait by Louis Capaldi. He got through. Michaela Brownlee, the big thing that happened on the show is that she had a seizure. She kind of felt it coming. She walked off stage before she was about to perform. She turns out that she was okay, and she got back right on stage and performed Rainbow by Casey Musgrave. She was excellent. Michaela Phillips sang 'Cause I Love You by Lizzo. Wasn't her finest performance, but she pulled it off, so that was pretty good. Nick Merico got through. He sang All I Want, All I Need by Whitesnake. Robert Taylor got through. He sang an original piece. Shannon Gibbons got through. She had a nice performance as well. Sophia Wackerman, who I think is going to win, she's excellent. She sang Somewhere by Barbra Streisand. I think this girl's absolutely the front runner to win the whole competition. I think she's that good. And Travis Finley got through as well. Among the people that didn't get through, Margie Mays, who obviously the girlfriend of Johnny West. Katy Perry was right. She said that she thought that Johnny would go further than Margie, and here we are. And so Margie goes home. Madison Page got sent home. Obviously, she was somebody that had talent, but she didn't go through. She partnered with Peyton Aldridge, and that did not go well. I think that that came back to haunt them. Chanel Masonette did not make it through. She was pretty good. I thought that she had a chance to get in. Yacht Singer did not make it through. I think he should have been in over Francisco personally. So those are a couple of those that did not make it through that I wanted to talk about. And then two more, Sarah Eason, who is a good friend of Sophia Wackerman. She did not go through, and they obviously partnered up. And then Kat Luna did not make it through either. I think that she was really good. Sarah Eason performed Leave the Light On by Tom Walker, and Kat Luna performed Always Remember Us This Way by Lady Gaga. So those are two people that didn't make the cut, unfortunately. Marcus Inslee didn't make it. He sang If I Lose Myself by One Republic. And obviously Sherry Mason that I mentioned, she sang Tell Me How by Paramore. She did not make it through. So your top 40 on Idol, and then a new episode on Sunday, which we'll preview on Friday's podcast. Now we'll do my top 10 players of the NFL for the calendar year 2019. So this is the playoffs in the beginning of the calendar year and the 2019 regular season. So not the playoffs. So without further ado, the top 10 players, or my top 10 NFL players of 2019. 10th place, Derrick Henry, running back, Tennessee Titans. Henry really has emerged as one of the best three running backs in the NFL over the past calendar year. He helped lead the Titans to the AFC title game. Obviously, that was in 2020, but really helped them go to the playoffs as well in the 2019 regular season. And he's somebody that is waiting for his next contract, and I think he's probably going to sit out of camp until he gets that contract. Number 9, DeAndre Hopkins, formerly of the Houston Texans, now of the Arizona Cardinals. Hopkins is somebody that really is an absolute megastar in the NFL, helped lead the Houston Texans offense these last few years, and I think he'll help Kyler Murray. Number 8, speaking of the Texans, Deshaun Watson. He led the Texans to the playoffs in 2019. He did not have a good playoff game in the calendar year 2019 against the Indianapolis Colts, but he helped lead the Texans to the playoffs this past year along with Hopkins. And even though some of his games are not his best, but if you're a quarterback that can single-handedly carry lesser talent, then you make my list. I have your respect. Although Hopkins isn't lesser talent, though. Number 7, Russell Wilson, Seattle Seahawks. He's on this list for the same reason why Watson's on this list. Carrying a team of not-so-great talent to the postseason. That's what Wilson did. He deserved that contract that Seattle gave him. And because of that contract, Seattle's going to have to make some tough decisions down the road. But Russell Wilson really helped lead the Seahawks to the playoffs. He was certainly a top 5 MVP player this year in the NFL. Helped the Seahawks win games that were kind of fluky. But got to give credit to where credit's due. And Russell Wilson's the guy I give a lot of credit to. 6, Aaron Donald, Los Angeles Rams. The Rams did not make the playoffs this past season, but Donald still had a really good 2019 season. But in the calendar year 2019, he helped lead the Rams to the Super Bowl. So he still has my respect for that. That was in 2019. And then the Rams got off to a nice start, and they fell apart. But Donald is not the reason why. So, Aaron Donald's still a top 10 player in the NFL. And certainly a top 10 player of 2019. Number 5, Michael Thomas, New Orleans Saints. Thomas is the best player that Drew Brees has in terms of his cast of characters on that team. Big catch after big catch this past year. He probably should have been in the Super Bowl. That's obviously the conversation here with the Rams and the no call, which should have been a pass interference. And then Thomas had another good season this past year to help lead the Saints to the postseason. Number 4, Nick Bosa, San Francisco 49ers. Yes, a rookie made this list. He helped turn that 49ers defense around. Nobody thought that the 49ers would be a top team in the NFC this past season. And the improved defense and pass rush led by Bosa is a huge reason why. 3, Stephon Gilmore, New England Patriots, obviously was the Defensive Player of the Year. I do not think he should have really won that award. I think it should have been Bosa, but the reason why that Gilmore is ahead of Bosa on this list is because in the year 2019, the New England Patriots won the Super Bowl because of their defense and because of guys like Gilmore, who did a great job shutting down that Rams offense in that Super Bowl. So Gilmore gets my spot over Nick Bosa for the calendar year 2019. But if this was the 2019 regular season, then I put Nick Bosa ahead of Stephon Gilmore. 2, Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs. I think his injury probably cost him the number 1 spot. The injury he suffered, obviously, because I feel that if he didn't get injured, that he would have won the MVP award this past year. But he's number 2. This is 2019 calendar year. If this was the 2019 season, he'd be number 1 because he helped lead the Chiefs to their first Super Bowl in 50 years. But that was technically in 2020. In 2019, Patrick Mahomes won the MVP. Or he won the MVP in the 2018 season. But he should have led the Chiefs to a Super Bowl appearance, but if it wasn't for Dee Ford, then Mahomes probably has back-to-back rings. So, but Mahomes, still this magical quarterback. I think the best quarterback in the league right now, but I do not have him as my top NFL player of 2019, which is Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. It's incredible what kind of leap Jackson made. Like I said, if Mahomes didn't get injured this past year, I think he would have been number 1. He would have been the 2019 MVP instead of Lamar, but here we are. Lamar Jackson really, from the get-go of the 2019 season, really took it and ran. A lot of big games against bad defenses. If this was the 2019 season top players, then Lamar Jackson would have been number 2 or number 3 because he had that bad playoff game against the Titans, which is why they didn't go on a run. So 2019 calendar year, my pick is Lamar Jackson. He won the regular season MVP award, really putting up game show numbers and getting a lot out of players who really hadn't done anything in the past, like Nick Doyle, the tight end, and Mark Andrews, the other tight end. Hollywood Brown was a big pickup. Seth Roberts had a nice year for the Ravens. So Lamar Jackson really helped get a lot out of the skill position group of the Ravens. And it's funny because before the season last year, I didn't feel that the Ravens skill position players were good enough for Lamar. And that's why I didn't think that Lamar was going to be the breakout star that he was because of his position group. But it turned out that he got a lot out of those players, and I underestimated those players, and I underestimated Lamar as well and his ability to pass. So my top player of 2019 calendar year for the NFL, Lamar Jackson. That's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow discussing the latest with NFL free agency, the coronavirus, any other news that breaks in the world of sports. We'll preview Masked Singer and Lego Masters for tomorrow night. I'll do my top 10 albums of 2019 as well. Hope you guys have a great day, everybody.